Hello, everyone. Today we are going to review the show Mom. Now, it's taken me some time to sit down and do this one, but I wanted to get it done because it did have quite a cast to it, actually, and some very lovable characters along the way for sure. And it definitely shows the struggles with addiction, I would say, especially with alcohol and drugs and gambling being probably the three main ones that I would say most people probably do struggle with on a daily basis. Um, so it's really a good story about a mother and daughter reconnecting after so many years of alcohol abuse and them finally, yeah, kind of meeting out of the blue, I guess you could say, at the very beginning. And then as the show gets on, they kind of rebuild their bond as a mother and daughter. And then obviously, it seems that both of them got very pregnant at a young age, and now the daughter has a daughter, and she also became an alcoholic, and it kind of burdened her family a little bit too, and obviously her relationship. Although I guess her husband at the time wasn't necessarily maybe the most stand-up role model either, because he was getting high and certain things all the time too, so that would make for, I guess, a bad environment with both people. But the two kids kind of seemed to kind of veer more towards the father after the divorce, which seemed kind of weird because when they first were breaking up, at least one of them was in a house and the other one was living in his car. So kind of a mess up situation. But I guess when you're putting the blame on one person so much, it's kind of hard not to see the other person as the good guy, maybe. But the husband does turn his life around. So I mean, I guess he kind of made up for his past transgressions a little bit, and became a successful car dealer at a car dealership. So yeah, I guess everything kind of worked out for everybody in the end. So this show was starring Allison Janney, played Bonnie Plunkett, Anna Faris played Christy Plunkett, Mimi Kennedy played, um, oh my God, why can't I think of her name? Marjorie. Marjorie Armstrong. Beth Hall played Wendy Harris and Janice. Hmm, that's weird. I don't remember her playing a second person. Jamie Presley played Jill Kendall. William Fichtner played Adam Janikowski. Uh, Kristen Johnson played Tammy Diffendorf. Matt Jones played Baxter, and then the kids, Blake Garrett Rosenthal played Roscoe, and Sadie Calvano played Violet Plunkett, and then her boyfriend in the very beginning of the show was Spencer Daniels played Luke. French Stewart played Rudy, or Chef Rudy as he was better known. Uh, Nate Cordry played Gabriel, who was the love interest of um, Christy for the first couple of seasons, anyway. Uh, and then Reggie De Leon played Paul. Will Sasso played Andy, who was Jill's love interest later on in the show. Don McManus played Steve, who was just another one of the alcoholics in the group for quite. Yeah, he just had kind of like appearances from like in certain episodes, I guess. Octavia Spencer played Regina for I don't know how many seasons, a couple, I think. Rainn Wilson played Trevor, who was Bonnie's therapist in the later seasons. Uh, Mary Pat Mary Pat Gleason played Mary. It's kind of funny. Um, and Sarah Rue played Candace, who was Baxter's love interest in the later seasons as well. And then we obviously had like guest appearances throughout the show. Stephen Weber played Patrick, who was another love interest of Christie's. And then Emily Osment was in the show for a little bit, which, yeah, played Jody, who was another addict. And then her boyfriend shows up later on in the show after she dies of an overdose. Who else was in the show? Oh, David Muir played Yuri, who was the love interest of Tammy, right? And who else was in the show? Oh my God, there was so many like random guest appearances. Justin Long played a love interest of Christie's as well for a little bit. Larry Joe Campbell played Mike, who was like the bar alcoholic after after Adam opened the bar. He was always like the number one customer there. And then there was another guest appearance. Who else? Oh, Sam McMurray played Ned, who was in the Gamblers Anonymous meetings that Christy was going to, who helped her with her gambling addiction. Uh, Bradley Whichford played Mitch, who was one of Adam's buddies from before he became a paraplegic from an incident, doing stunts because he used to be a stuntman. He was one of his buddies who definitely had his own drug and alcohol addiction problems. And then who played Christy's father? Because you would think that he would be somewhere in this main cast list. And I think if I'm remembering correctly, was it... Oh my God, I'm trying to remember way back to like the first season. Because if I'm remembering it correctly, Clark Duke played her boss, or maybe I'm mixing that up with some other show that I saw. Oh, I guess Joe Magliano was also in the show, but I don't really remember him that much, so he must have not been there for long. And then Chris Pratt obviously was in the show for a few episodes. He played like a ranch hand, and his name was Nick, because at one point in time, Anna Faris and him were together in real life. Who else was in the show? Who played Christy's dad? I'm trying to find like a photo of him here, and I can't seem to find him for whatever reason. You would think that he would be here somewhere. Really, good Lord. But yeah, I'm not finding him, which is weird. Oh, come on. He was in it for quite some time. You would think that he would be here. There was a lot of people in the show. Even Courtney Thorne Smith played Sam, who was in Adam's Al-Anon meetings, and he failed to tell Bonnie that that was a woman. Who else was in this show? Good Lord. Yeah. Oh my God, I might just have to look this up, because this is ridiculous. Like, holy crap, this list just it doesn't stop, does it? Okay, so this is like all tenant number 1, tenant number 2 sort of thing. Yeah, you would think he would be like more up front somehow. Oh, there he is. Kevin Pollak played Elvin. So I guess when Bonnie was young, right, she met this guy named Elvin, and that's who Christy's father was, and eventually they reconnect, and then unfortunately Elvin passes away after a very short period of time. It seems that they lost so many people in the show, because Elvin died, Emily Osment's character passed away, Christy's landlord passed away eventually. I believe, yeah, that was Victor, right? That Victor was his name? Yeah. Johnny Coyne played Victor. He passed away. God, there was just, yeah. It really does show, like, how difficult it would be to deal with the struggle of addiction, especially, it seemed like every, like, sort of traumatizing event that happened to them, they had to go to a meeting just to get it out of their system so that they didn't want to drink. Now, I guess you could say that I've, even speaking personally, like I have a very addictive personality myself, so now I wouldn't say my stories even come close to comparing to any of these women, and I guess one of the cast members actually did have some real life experience with alcoholism in her own, like, real life. So I guess it kind of, like, I guess she kind of put some of that into the show a little bit. So made it seem a little bit more real at certain times. But I mean, this was a sitcom, so it definitely made you laugh at times, cry, get angry with the characters for sure. Uh, and none of them were perfect by any means, but I would say my favorite character along the way had to be Marjorie. Um, Marjorie was probably my favorite character. She was always giving such good advice, and she was the most selfless person in the show. Didn't take anybody or anything for granted, and I mean, when she got mad, she had every right to be mad and angry at the people she was angry with, even though she, sometimes didn't feel like it was necessary for her to be angry anyway. But I mean, she is trying to give the best advice out of all of them in the group to them, and sometimes they just took it with a grain of salt and just did whatever they wanted to do anyway, and it ended up that a lot of them ended up relapsing over and over and over again. So, but by the end of the show, I think they both, like, each character had like a solid amount of years sober without even thinking about drinking. Well, I shouldn't say without thinking about drinking, but without actually taking a drink. And sometimes it was by like complete accident. Like in Christy's case, the one time she just picks up the drink, just takes a swig, and then goes, "Oh no, there goes like 2 years of sobriety just down the drain completely," which would suck because when you've been working the program for so long, and then only to just a complete like floozy accident, like you're not even really thinking about what you're picking up, you're just kind of doing it, right? And then it'd be like, oh my God, I just drank. Like now I have to go to a meeting and start from ground zero again. So that would be kind of a horrible thing to have happen. But uh, as the show goes on, obviously Christy, I think, probably had the most character development. Like she went from being kind of like the mom who had to basically take her own mother, who was living with them at the time, and her kids to a hotel because she was trying to avoid being evicted from her apartment, to becoming like an actual lawyer, because she wasn't even in the last. Anna Faris isn't even in the last year's season. Doesn't even make like a guest appearance or anything. And I guess she was a stripper at one point, so yeah, she definitely went like a full 360 with her life. And I guess so did Bonnie too, because she went from being like the kind of like the grandmother who doesn't really help with anything and tries to come up with all these like business ideas throughout, and some of them legal, some of them not so legal. But I guess eventually she kind of like, not through legal means, but kind of worms her way into becoming a building manager. So I guess she turned herself around for the better too, even though she may have lied about what she was in the beginning. But I guess she gets Tammy to kind of come and help and makes amends with her for the past that she put, for all the stuff she put Tammy through when they were teenagers and they were living together, going through the foster care system and so on and so forth. And Marjorie was in jail for, what was she in jail for again? I can't remember exactly, but she served jail time. I think all of them probably had their own mug shots. Maybe Wendy might have been the only one that didn't have a mugshot in the entire group. I can't remember, but it was funny to see the intros kind of change along the seasons and see that the photos of them from like their past was kind of funny. And then it was weird, like the kids just kind of seemed to um, be completely out of the picture after a certain amount of seasons, which I found kind of odd. Now, they did have mention of them from here to there, but I mean, Roscoe goes to live with Baxter and his new partner or his new wife. Oh my God, where is she? Yeah, he goes to live with her and Candace, and then yeah, that's kind of like the end of his storyline basically. And then Violet ends up moving out with one of her professors, I think, when she goes off to college. And then she breaks up with him and starts a podcast about her own mom. Uh, and then she has her mom on the podcast and basically says that her life has been better with her not in it. So that was kind of the end of Violet's storyline. So yeah, they never really reconnect. And then obviously Anna Faris isn't even in the last season as Christy. So even though there is a mention of her, she never makes any appearance, which was kind of sad because I would have liked to see at least one guest appearance from her to kind of see how exactly she was doing with the lawyering stuff and going to school and so on and so forth. But I guess it is what it is. And I suppose by the end of the show that Adam and Bonnie were like the couple meant for each other. Definitely not with their own trials and tribulations and fights and so on and so forth, but Adam buying the bar was probably ended up being one of the best investments he had ever made because it was something he always wanted to do, and he ended up making a good return on it by the end of the show. And I guess he had lots of help, obviously, from all the girls in the AA group. So he wasn't alone in this venture, at least. Um, but yeah, what else can I really say about the show? I would definitely recommend going to watch it. And I just binge watched it, so yeah. It was something that I'd never seen before, and I kind of just had it on my Netflix list, and I was going through, and I was like, what's a show that just seems really bingeable? And this was one of them. So yeah, yeah, I don't think there's really anything else I can touch on for this review. Um, I've gone through the entire like guest and regular cast list, so that yeah, crazy list of guest stars in 8 seasons they had for sure. Um, and other than that, yeah, I guess just go watch the show for yourself and see what you think of it. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I thought it was definitely more than deserving of that. And I guess I'll see you guys in the next review. Bye bye for now.